This week on Rough Times, we're talking about Rosewood marimbas in the outdoor marching idiom. Should they be a thing or not? And we're also talking about problems with the governing body of competitive circuits, specifically DCI, DCA, and maybe even WGI. I'm not actually sure how that's structured for them, though. And should core directors be the governing board of the circuits, and are they looking out for the best interests of the circuit or just their organizations? Rosewood marimbas. Should we be using these things in outdoor marching percussion? Should we be doing that?
Here we go.
Ryan, I'll let you kick it off.
This is sort of a passion. I would say project. Maybe it'll become a project.
In this week's episode of Attacking Drum Corps.
That is true. With no solutions.
I got some solutions. Synthetic keyboards.
This is easy. Yeah, actually, what are we talking about? This is an easy one.
They invented the solution 40 years ago.
I don't know. Have you looked into the price of Rosewood recently?
I mean,
every year. I gotta tell you what, I've been waiting for the marimba for like 12 years or more. Actually, since I left college, which was like half a century ago, right? I've been holding out for my marimba. And every year, the price of Rosewood just keeps exponentially growing. And apparently, and I don't know because I haven't traveled to Honduras, but Honduran Rosewood seems to be becoming rather scarce, I guess. So now I think there's some regulations that had come, that cities or sites, CITES, I don't know how it's actually pronounced, that I guess was then deferred for music manufacturers. Because I guess you use Rosewood to make guitars and stuff.
That's a pretty recent thing, though, right? Because
I think so. Maybe the past couple of years.
We got some Rosewood keys for a customer a little while ago, and it took forever.
Yes.
And it wasn't getting them made or anything. It took forever to get them into the country, to get through like approval or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But here's my issue, though. So it's becoming more and more difficult, more and more costly, and these things are supposed to last like generations. Like you should be able to pass this along to your kids or to the next generation. I mean, they should last decades. But we push them outside. We have a rainstorm. I know of at least one drum corps is like basically ruined 6 boards with some pretty substantially, I guess they damaged it pretty well, Rosewood keys. And I'm just like, I think we've actually finally reached the point where we should consider a ruling to not use those things at all. And I would be certainly on board with some sort of circuit-wide. I hate doing this because I don't like the concept of bans, but banning of that particular kind of wood outdoors. Yeah. I just think it's a bad idea.
I do too. I think we got here through capitalizing on people's musical eliteness. And I think what's going on is you have, because you didn't see Rosewood keyboards in this activity until 2004, 2005-ish, somewhere in there maybe. So somehow we survived all those years without Rosewood. But I think what's going on is you're starting to get like, and it goes back to that haves and have-nots thing that we talked about before. It's one more thing to drive costs up. It's one more thing. But I think that there's a lot of corporate pressure on these groups to use those instruments, and to the point where I think some of them are given huge discounts or even free instruments.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Because they're trying to upsell. I mean, basically, why do they endorse these groups? They endorse these groups to get schools to buy this stuff because they want to be like those groups. It's just any other, like, same reason they give Nikes to Michael Jordan. Do people know who Michael Jordan is anymore?
I think so.
They know who his shoes are.
They definitely know who he is.
Yeah. Do they know who
do they know
the man or
do
just
they
the
know
shoes?
who the goat is? That's for Faraj. I know you're watching. But I think like it's a strategy to upsell schools into, if you want to be the best, if you want to compete at the top levels, you have to have Rosewood. And it does sound better. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't sound better. It does. But this is marching band and drum corps, and like maybe we're taking this a little too seriously, a little too elitist on this. And like literally the reason for these synthetic boards to exist is for this. And it's also cost prohibitive. Like there's a $4,000 option and there's a $16,000 option. And where is the $12,000 coming from per board? And we're using 5 of them per board. Let's raise the dues a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing.
Yeah, that's also like the talk is like there's like a 5 to 10% difference in sound to like a betterment of sound with a Rosewood versus synthetic, but the 300% price difference doesn't make it worth it. Like
Right.
if we're gonna be spending $16,000 on this marimba, then it better be 300% more sound, 300% better than a synthetic keyboard, which I don't think is the case.
And we're gonna have 19-year-olds shove it in the back of a trailer every night.
Yep.
And we're gonna practice in the sun all day. And
Meanwhile, I've been sitting there salivating watching these things for 20 years, right? And I know every single year, like I can't catch up. There's no way I could pay for that marimba anymore because next year it's gonna be $1,500 more. It's like, all right, I'll raise my another $1,500, and someday I'll have my marimba, and we go out and ruin them again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm salivating.
the thing that bothers me too about it is we're treating like this. I mean, basically, it's a precious endangered wood that has specific properties that are used for making this awesome sounding instrument, and we're treating it like toilet paper. like it's like a disposable commodity.
I was looking into it a while ago, like probably like a couple weeks ago. The biggest industry for Rosewood is furniture.
Oh, hands
So
down.
it just blows my mind. Like this beautiful tonal wood is being turned into a couch or a bench.
Is that
Like,
Honduran rosewood?
Yeah,
Apparently, there are multiple species
right now,
of
I just
rosewood.
looked
don't
it
know what
up.
that means.
I just looked it up right now. Rosewood is selling for $17,000 a ton.
That's because
Honduras rosewood?
Yeah,
like uber rich people will turn it into something like
A sculpture.
Well, my dresser cost this much and it's made of Honduran rosewood.
but it holds the same
It
clothes.
holds my clothes so much better than your.
I
oak
do
dresser.
love nice furniture, though.
It's nice furniture sounds so much better.
I'd rather have a nice marimba than nice
Well,
furniture.
yeah.
That's my point, right?
When I hit my dresser, it makes a beautiful D shape.
Wait, but if the difference in sound is only incremental, like why? Like, do you disagree with Zach in the sense that it's more than 5 to 10% of a difference in terms of the sound? Because I don't think you'd care this much unless you thought it was way better. Like, I'm thinking about it as a parallel to like graphics cards, because the same thing is happening with computer graphics cards. Like, people are buying them up to play like Minecraft, and you can use them for like, people need them for editing, people need them for all these other amazing things, but they're only using it for these things. And people try to say, oh well, you don't need it for this. And it's like, well, if you didn't appreciate the jump this much, then you wouldn't really be complaining this much. So do you, like, if you had to put a percentage on how much better
that's really
one of
tough.
these sounds?
I mean that's tough. That's tough to answer. It definitely is better. I don't know what the percentage is.
Yeah, Zach, where did you come up with that? Was that just a...
I just thought it was his personal opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Came out of a dark place.
Well, I guess it also would depend on its application, because I think once you wash marimba with horns and battery and all the
Okay.
other drum corps stuff,
Well, even
I
the
think,
amplification, right? I mean,
yeah, you probably could tweak it to the point where it's probably not as focused or as warm of a sound, but it's so nominal that certainly grandma's not going to know, and probably most musicians aren't going to know. However, from a soloist standpoint, if I rolled 2 of those things out onto the stage and performed the same thing on both, you'd be like, that's like night and day.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very, very different
No.
animal.
The argument is not should we have Rosewood marimbas. We definitely should.
Yeah.
But that should be for concerts, symphonic gigs, indoor,
Soloists.
a college percussion studio that's going to have that instrument and take care of it, and it's going to last for 25 years.
I agree for the most part. I don't like, there are so many other things that happen like this that we don't complain about. I mean, I think about like materials for furniture and all these other things where it's like,
But this is a rough times percussion.
oh well, that's
Okay.
well, what I'm saying is like oh my god, what was the point I was trying to make? So the problem is the real problem that you guys are trying to like hash out is the price versus the depreciation and the length of time it's used.
And it's also something that it's another way for
Well,
organizations.
the arms race thing, yeah,
with
I
more
completely agree with that.
resources
Yeah.
Can can make it harder to compete with them because
Okay.
you know they
Yeah.
and I mean you can tell me that judges don't pay attention, but that's BS. They do, and it also is like just without playing a note even. They roll out onto the field and they see 5 Rosewood keyboards, and percussionists are judging percussion, and they're like, "Oh, Rosewood."
So even subconsciously, they're like,
dude, and not, beyond just marimbas, you know how percussionists are. Like, look how we are with drum sets. It's silly. It's completely silly. Like, you'll get like the custom series drum set, and like, well, this is laced with, I don't. What are some
Babinga and
Baby's tears.
baby's tears.
Babinga baby tears and like all these, and you know what? Sonically, you ask us, be like, what does this do to the sound? And they can't. They have no idea. It's just
sounds fancy.
It's just a.
making crap up.
Yeah.
There's like some buzzwords. Warm. There's words that you say. Right.
I know
Focused.
I know people who have like $4,000 drum sets and they can't tune it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also know people that have $400 drum sets and make them sound pretty good. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference between a maple kit and a poplar kit. But beyond maple,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's the slight difference. Like it's like if it's only incremental, but you can tell. Like if I was
It's
a
a
really
flex.
good, yeah. Well, the
That's
same thing
all
with
it is.
like if I was gonna buy a snare drum, and I had to go with something, I'd go with Pearl Carbon Core, and like you could argue they don't really sound that much different than a regular snare drum, and it's like yeah, but I could tell the difference, and I want to play on a carbon core. I want that sound.
But again, it's also an application thing, right? Because I think you probably could take just a standard championship series or any common drum form factors like this or the Dynasty or whatever, and make them sound very similar. But once you put those drums on the actual application they're meant for, in back of a horn line or something, and you listen to it from the front, again, world of difference. So that's weird because that's the exact opposite of the argument I'm making, where you could take that instrument as a soloist instrument and make it sound phenomenal no matter which drum you're using, essentially.
Well, we were talking about the Vanguard thing when you were like, okay,
I need to blow up your argument.
Go ahead.
It's not the same because that instrument is specifically designed for the marching idiom.
That's true too.
Yeah.
And the whole reason for the carbon core is to enable the shell to hold up in the elements and keep it round. So, like, those design
I don't know, I
elements.
thought it was just a strictly sound thing.
I actually don't think it's. Well, I guess the
I heard,
shell
yeah.
staying in round is what helps it keep a good sound.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the carbon fiber makes it like, oh, that carbon fiber sound is it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really it at all. I think it's more about it protects the shell from the elements, so it stays true to form better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can go out with a carbon core snare drum or any like the championship series snare drum for 10 years and get a good sound out of them. But a Rosewood marimba that's outside for a year, the keys are already dead.
So I would say then it's just why did we ever start using them? Like that would be the whole thing.
I think that was I think you had corporations that manufacture these instruments going, how are we going to get people to buy more Rosewood marimbas? You know what we could do?
Yeah.
We can
Give Vanguard
we can
marimbas.
give Vanguard or Blue Devils or whoever to start playing on these things, and then when they're winning on these instruments, they win because they use these instruments. And if you want to win, you need to play these instruments. And now we're selling more Rosewood marimbas to high schools that don't really.
And they very well could be taking great care of them. The
Yeah.
problem is not just that; it's the message that you're sending as well. If we're going to compete, or if we want to sound like that, you're going to need these instruments. And what ends up happening, you get even DCA drum corps who are just blowing up Rosewood.
For no reason.
like a DCA core that bought Rosewood keys that didn't buy practice keys to go with them because they extended themselves financially too much to get the first round. And then there was a show in the rain because DCA doesn't care about your Rosewood keyboards. And the show in the rain, and I mean rain, talking rain, they send them out there. And it doesn't matter how many people I yell at or get upset about, like, and the argument I got was like, we're going to get $1,000 fine if we don't come out there and perform. Like, you're going to ruin $30,000 worth of keyboard instruments.
Your fine's bigger tonight than that.
Like,
for sure.
And they went out. And like literally, we're out in the field, and it was raining a little bit, but as they're setting up, like maybe the show had just started, a wall of water comes down from the sky, and like literally, I felt physical pain when I watched that water hit those boards. I was like, oh, I was so mad that night.
There's no coming back from that.
No, and they never were right after that. They never resonated right. They were dead, out of tune. Like so stupid.
Yeah.
So I agreed. You know, Alejandro. I think.
I think it's
don't-
just yeah.
I don't think we should remove the use case of using Rosewood for instruments because, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
But somehow we have to get this across to people who are not in the know that they're supposed to last. It's not like marching drums, right? In general, every 8 to 10 years or less, depending on your usage of them, you're going to replace these things. Those keyboards aren't the same like that. They're supposed to be generational or more.
I think it's just, I guess it comes down to like the money thing. Cause like, I mean, there's some clothes that I pay arguably too much money for, but like when I travel, I like to wear these things and people will be like, oh, will you travel with like your nice clothes? And I'll be like, yeah, I want to do this in nice clothes. But like I said, it's because these drum corps can't financially keep up, because if they could and it wasn't an issue, then it wouldn't matter. It's like, yeah, we're going to play in the rain, but we want to sound like we want to do this. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you have the money, but then we already got into the issue of all that. Like, even when I wear nice shoes sometimes, and people are like, you skate in these shoes? And I'd be like, yeah, because I want to wear them. I want to skate in these shoes, and it doesn't matter to me.
That's
like,
fine. Two differences, though.
Yeah.
You're not making somebody else pay for
Well,
it.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's where the
and
difference
the other
is.
difference is it's not made of an endangered wood.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we endanger stuff all the time, and it's
are you wearing fur coats made from an endangered
no,
species?
but rich people are.
It's not popular. In fact, you come under a lot of scrutiny.
Maybe, but I mean, Rosewood marimbas are
maybe the way to deal with this is to scrutinize it.
Well, I agree on all of it except for like I said, where I completely fold is when you're passing that cost on to the students. Like if the dues weren't going up and these drum corps are shelling out the money for it anyway, I'd be like, well, it's one of those things where it's like, if you want something nice, you got to pay for it. Like that's it. Like
the argument you'll hear too is people say, well, yeah, but compared to everything, all this other stuff, that's just a drop in the bucket. Yeah, and a whole bunch of drop in the buckets are the reason we're paying $5,000.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like
that's where I'm like, well, you can't argue with that. It's like if you're making the kids pay for it, then that's the worst part. If it was just the drum or donations and stuff, it's like, well, we want this drum corps to play on Rosewood every year, and alumni was doing it, or other organizations.
And also, I mean, being an endangered wood, though, it's not the responsible thing. It's not the right thing to do to take that thing outside.
Well, I would just say the right thing would be to stop making marimbas completely out of rosewood if the wood is endangered.
I disagree with that in that, like, the wood has symphonic qualities that are, like, for concert marimbas, for percussion studios, like, things like that. I think it's
And you can go, like, Williamsport High School has a Rosewood marimba that they've had for 15 years now. And there's a couple keys that need replaced, but that marimba is still going to last for another 15 years from now. So they buy one marimba to last 30 years instead of 5 marimbas to last 1 year at a time.
Yeah, or even maybe 2 or 3.
Maybe.
I mean, but the trend that I see is like a lot of them are replacing keys every year. So they're keeping the keyboard for a couple years, but this year's keys are next year's practice keys, and we get new keys in.
They're all rosewood?
Yeah.
So is it just the keys that are rosewood, or it's the whole?
It's just
okay.
the keys. It's just the keys.
Okay.
But it's yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I think that the symphonic qualities of the instrument, I think that like it is a thing, but I also think like we're taking ourselves too seriously if that matters so much to us in this idiom. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying is like people that do care about this idiom would be taking it that seriously, and at that point, it's like I can't take that from them. But once they pass the cost on to the kids, then yeah, I can. Like I'd be like, this is supposed to be about performance. If they wanted to sound that good at drum corps, like if a snare, like we were talking about it the other day with Vanguard, it's like they sounded so much better on Pearl drums than Dynasties, and it's like they want to play with Pearl drums and they want to sound that good and they want to spend that extra money, then that's what they're going to do. But once you're passing on the cost of the performers, then I completely fold. It's like I don't agree. At that point, that passes the line of acceptance for me. Like of this is okay until you're doing this. Like if you guys if I like you said, it's only me. Like if I want to ball out and spend X money on clothes and wear them and ruin them, like that's fine because it's the cost is on me and I don't care and those are my views with my things. But if you're passing the cost on to the performers,
could you replace those clothes if you had to?
I probably wouldn't because I don't pay like the resale value on things. I like paying retail. Once the stuff sells out, it just blows up exponentially.
Yeah, right. I got you.
But like I think like when I have something nice, I want to enjoy it. So like I mean even my scooter. One time I got stuck in New York City in the rain, and I was like, man, I'm about to ruin this scooter. But I had no way of getting home. And I was just like, you know what? I love riding in the rain, and I'm just gonna have to ride this in the rain. And I was like, well, this might fall apart. I might have to replace it, and it's gonna suck. But like, I literally just wanted to ride my scooter in the rain, and I was so accepting of like, yep, I might fry it, and it'll be what it'll be. But I want to do this,
and if you want to buy yourself
that's
a
what I'm
Rosewood
saying.
marimba
Yeah,
and go out and play in the rain, I'm gonna think you're an idiot, but you do it, man.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's
Is like you like I was. If you're willing to bear the cost, whatever. Like I mean,
listen. I'm all for like personal accountability, and sure, as a person, I can go out and purchase as many Rosewood instruments as I want. And as Mark said, sure, I'll just go in a rainstorm and use them. However, I don't think it should be institutional policy for a circuit like WGI. Well, WGI is, I suppose, a little different, but still, they're rough on them, right?
Yeah.
DCI, BOA.
I mean, all of them almost, yeah.
Whatever, right? So, I don't think it's good policy. Now, I've never been to Honduras, so I'm not going to put the tinfoil hat conspiracy thing into play here, but I've been told it's endangered, and the prices kind of confirm that.
Yeah.
So either it's a huge conspiracy, and there's tons of Honduran rosewood, or it's becoming endangered. Either way, it's quite a bit more expensive.
Pretty soon it might be cheaper than real wood.
That's true. You'd be like, I'll build my house out of Honduran rosewood, right? God.
So
But
what
we
was
use
the
the plywood marimbas.
Right.
what was the price of a Rosewood marimba 10 years ago?
What? So like you make a 5, like the biggest?
Yeah,
5 octave?
like the one you want. You dream marimba.
I how many years ago?
10.
We probably could have picked one up for 11,000,
Brand new.
brand new.
So what are you paying now?
In common
Yeah.
price. Now it's 16.
60. Oh, that's a pretty big jump.
I've seen them as high as 20.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen like 5 octave, like marimba 1 5 octave marimba is like 22,000 right now.
Yeah, if you get the nice frames and things, it jacks it up even more. But just basically a set of keys on a frame, you're gonna pay at least 16,000.
Oh, maybe it is a ruse by the companies just to make more money.
Who
Maybe
knows?
It's not in danger.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could. It really could.
I don't
be.
think it's like a pinpoint on one thing. I think it's things feeding off of each other. I think it's like some ego elitism happening where we have to have the best sound.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I also think that there's companies like, yeah, you should think that way, and
Yeah.
I can make some money with that.
Well, it's
Why change
every
the-
form of like advertising is like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everything is like that.
Why change
But
the
the difference is it's not a customer directly deciding to buy something. It's an ensemble deciding they have to have this and then cranking tuition up 10%. You know what I mean? And just little things like that adding up. And here's one point I wanted to make is like it's funny whenever you're talking about these things inside the drum corps idiom is you say like we were having this discussion the other day about education versus professionals. And anytime we talk about how much they're being charged and how much money is being put on the kids' shoulders to fund this, they're students and it's an education. But when you talk about the music side of it, they have to have Rosewood marimbas because they're professionals. Well, which is it?
Yeah.
Like, which it seems convenient.
Well,
That
people that go to school for things do often use the best. Like if you're going to, I don't know, a Div 1 school for football, you're probably using the best equipment.
sure,
Like,
and you're going to use a Rosewood marimba if you're going to school for music, but they're turning you into a professional musician.
And chances are that Rosewood marimba, it's analogous to like a Steinway piano, right? Like that instrument will be around for many, many decades.
like the Rosewood marimbas that are at Mansfield right now there when you were there, Ryan?
Yes. In fact,
That
well,
was
we
a long time ago.
yeah, man, like I can show you some black and white video and stuff. No,
Those marimbas are holding up better than we are.
oh my god.
we purchased marimbas. I say we. Well, yeah, I guess I paid for them because I
Paid
paid
tuition.
tuition, right? There were many marimbas that were purchased while I was there, but we had a Deegan and a Musser marimba that were 4-octave marimbas that were probably purchased in the 60s and are still in use today. I mean, they still sound great.
I remember when I went to Susquehanna, I had never been in a room with a 5-octave Rosewood marimba until I went to college. It was the first time I've ever seen one. And that was like, oh, I'm in college now.
Right, it's the
Like,
college
this is-
instrument.
This is real.
Made it bomb.
Actually, what makes that difficult, even here, right, is once you get beyond like the 1990s for solo marimba literature, it's really hard to find marimba lit that is not
5 octave.
yeah, it's not smaller than at least 4 2/3.
Yeah.
So you have this body of like of standard marimba literature out there that requires you have these instruments.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why, from an outdoor marching perspective, why you have to have those instruments.
I've seen ensembles where they'll do like they have 5 marimbas and they'll have 4 2/3 on the 1, 3, and 5 marimbas, just so that it matches like
It just- it's
symmetrically.
matchy-matchy.
It just looks symmetric. And like the center marimba never plays on the bottom of the marimba, so it's
Oh,
just
that's a
and not,
crime.
and not just that, but it's truck space.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you're
Like you need
Sure, it's
20
only-
extra feet of truck space. So now you need a bigger truck and you got to drive that truck all over the country. So it's not just like the
Well, that
cost
is
of that
true.
one instrument. It's the $10,000 a year it is to transport them around the country.
So they're not
All-
even writing for the whole instrument. I didn't know
No.
that either. I assumed that like even though they were ruining them, they are utilizing it to like
I hope so.
a fuller extent.
No,
But if they're
it's-
not using it all the way, then
It is a thing, or I mean, some groups do, but it is a thing where usually the center marimba is playing on the higher end because you orchestrate that way because it's easier to listen to. It's easier to listen into, sort of like you listen into the snares. You know what I mean? But it's a more articulate sound to lock into. You know, if they were playing in the bass range of the instrument, it would be more resonant and more washy. So that is a generality of the activity. I don't know if it's
True
not a
everywhere.
rule or anything, but a lot of people do orchestrate like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Why are we making these synthetic instruments?
well, I mean, it's not
Like,
why are we making them? Why are we buying them? That's like the big one. Is like if schools weren't buying them, then it wouldn't be as endangered. And it's if you didn't let the propaganda from watching drum corps and being like, oh, I need the best stuff. If you just had thoughts for yourself.
Yeah, it's funny if you go back and watch like even a late '90s
Yeah,
drum
they
corps
weren't
video,
using 'em.
You're gonna see synthetic keyboards. You're gonna see less of them, and you're gonna see even I can see some like you'll see Blue Devils in the mid '90s using concert frames and stuff like that.
Yeah.
which I don't know if they had field frames. I don't know if anybody was doing
I don't
that.
know. They
yet.
play with rocks. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
basically rocks on sticks. That's-
Which I mean, they were actively destroying instruments, but at least they were cheap
But
instruments.
one thing I was going to say, the amplification has done wonders for is you can actually use the appropriate mallets now.
Yeah, and
it actually
also-
sounds
and-
like what it's
and
supposed to sound like.
technique.
And
Yeah,
technique.
exactly. Yeah.
And if you're using a $70,000 mixer, there's probably some built-in effects in there that'll make your marimbas sound warmer than but it's already built into the mixer.
push the marimba button?
Yeah, just push the marimba button, EQ it, and now it sounds warmer. And you don't have to spend that extra $16,000 on a Rosewood marimba.
Yeah. And you know, we could also sample it like we do everything else.
It's true.
The Pearl Mallet Station or the
You could have a bunch of those.
those
right?
yeah those make sound. What I think is hilarious is like when the age of amplifications came, like when we started amplifying more, the front ensemble started growing. Like there's more people in the front ensemble now that there's amplification than before there was.
There
Before-
was conversation about that, like we won't need as many instruments because we can to get it through, and then it got through, and that wasn't like the only conversation, but
Yeah.
that was a conversation that was going on when that was a thing, and then all that happened was the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, it just became bigger and
Just
bigger.
took
and bigger.
off.
And I enjoy it, but it's
Oh, Vanguard
it's-
sounds great. And again, they may take very, very good care of their instruments, and it's more of what it says to the rest of the. I mean, I don't know.
The less privileged.
What would you?
Yeah.
I just, I hate anything in the and actually this is a good segue into the next topic I want to talk to you guys about.
Yeah.
But I hate anything in the activity that makes it easier for competition to not exist. You know, and like let's go back to what I mean by that is like go back to like the late 90s, I guess. And you could I think back then if the Colts recruited really hard and had a good plan and a good show design, they could go out and compete with the Blue Devils. Like it was a thing they could do. Today, I think that's impossible. I don't think there's anything they could do to compete with the Blue
Because of the
Devils.
equipment thing?
Because of everything. Because of everything.
I was- okay,
the
yeah, I was gonna say,
equipment,
what do you mean by
the rock star status of designers and how I think that there are people now who we've made such big deals as designers that whatever they do is right, even if it's wrong.
Even if they program schlock, it's still the right schlock.
There was a moment, I don't remember which, it might have been the most recent BD show. And I wish I had references before that. I know this conversation was going to go there. But there was a moment in their show where they had like, it was like the snares, I think, and a section of the horn line were like musically matching, but they had them staged on like opposite sides of the field or something. And like, if anybody else would do what they were doing there, it would be bad design. But because the Blue Devils are doing it, it's the right thing to do now. You know what I mean? And like that goes back to that whole GE thing where there's a few people deciding the direction of it, even when they contradict themselves, they're right.
Well, it's like I think we talked about this too, where Blue Knights in their most recent season just went off to the side and played out of time. The battery was just in their own time, and the whole drum corps is moving on, like out. I don't know who was technically in time actually with the drum major, but the battery is like off to the left, just playing in their own time. And it's like if any open class corps would have done that, they would have been like, drumline's playing out of time. What's going on here? And like it's like, oh well, the Blue Knights did it. A world class drum corps did it. So like it's okay. And
I'm trying to think of an analogous point that would be of comparison to this problem. I maybe figure skating. Even this is a terrible analogy, but if the figure skaters in the Olympics were the authority on what was accepted in figure skating, essentially they'd be telling the judging community what they should be looking at to score them in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So,
or anything competitive,
right? So I keep picking on him. When Scott Johnson says, this is the future of the activity, and then looks at the judge and say, this is the future of the activity. They're like, well, you are Scott Johnson, so box 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
I don't think I can't think of a good analogy.
Well, I think it's
because
it's rooted in art, and art is subjective, right? Like we could say, I mean, you could disagree with him, and other people could agree with him, but nobody can say either side is wrong. Like we talked about how drum lines were playing in the earlier years.
They do say one side's wrong. It depends on who you are. It doesn't. The idea is not what matters. It depends on who you are.
But there are people that do similar things that don't have Scott Johnson status that do get away with it.
Not first. Once it's done, it's allowed to be done.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
But they're not allowed to be first. At least I generally I can't think of something where somebody successfully innovated the activity where they weren't one of the big guys. Like usually sometimes you will see a really good idea, and it'll be modestly rewarded by a smaller, lesser known group. And then the next year you'll see one of the big groups do it.
And then they'll get
they'll usually do it better. But
I'm thinking more WGI. I mean, I don't know if this has happened. My WGI history isn't that great. Quads on stilts, like they didn't win. Infinity didn't win. They actually came in like 7th or something, but they were fan favorite. And like people,
I was in the arena that night.
Yeah, it was amazing. That show was probably my favorite WGI show that year. And I was like, wow, what a way to perform.
And I'm not saying they were the best drum line.
No. But even then, you're right. Like, well, I mean, I don't know if somebody,
though,
I don't know.
That's where I was like, what are we doing with effect? Like, you heard.
Yeah, or Strike the year they put a whole airplane on the floor. That was nuts. Like I to this day I remember seeing it in person and being like, they have like a full-sized plane on this WGI floor. Like this is insane. How are they doing this? But I know MCM usually has a lot of props like in their like 2010 to like now years. Like they had that year they had a ton of TVs or like all those pillars that one year, the Mantra show. They always have like huge props. So I don't know if like that only came because they did it first or whatever. I'm sure there were other drum lines that did stuff like that first, but I've never seen quads on stilts. And like I guess you're right. If they had been one of the big 3, right, they would have gotten away with it and won with that. I mean, I think they weren't the best percussion section, but they were still very good.
I'm not even sure MCM could get away with abstract.
Isn't that all
Whereas
they do?
RCC is like.
Oh well, yeah. I think that's
abstract.
2 different abstracts. Yeah.
Like, but I've never really seen MCM where they've been. Maybe they had the poles with the lights. Maybe
they kind of led the whole thing with moving the front around the floor during the show. And I'd say that's pretty abstract.
Moving the front around the floor.
Like
that was
literally
them?
moving the keyboards around the floor.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
During the show. Because that was that Hand of Man show.
The little balls and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm not GE expert from an effect standpoint. I kind of got it all together. I could put the whole
RCC is
together.
very abstract. Broken City is also.
Pulse gets very abstract sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you mean from like a show? I thought you meant like an idea for an
more
effect.
like exactly. It's more like I'm watching this and man, the quality is great, but I have not a clue like what
the show is about.
What's happening here? You know what I mean? MCM, it was abstract, but I got the point, right?
You didn't research the painting that we designed the show about?
Well, that's like no. My first season of DCI was 2012, and BD did Cabaret Voltaire, and like there's this whole I think it's like a political movement or like an art movement or something, and like I didn't understand the show at all. They have this like thing in the front ensemble that's like a tower of auxiliary instruments, and the
Who is
show. I don't know what it is, but the show starts with this girl in the front ensemble hitting it with like a sledgehammer and like making these noises
who
and like
performed this?
BD.
I was at the show with like the hula hoops, all that stuff.
Oh, right.
I saw that at East.
2012. I just know
I
they
don't
won drums
remember.
that year. They had white pearl. I think they had white pearl drums. They had like
remember.
baby blue sleeves under their uniform.
I just remember there was a year that it was a year they used hula hoops or whatever. I was at East, and like I don't remember who went on before them, but the crowd went crazy, and BD came on and did that show, and they were very good. But man, the crowd was not.
Yeah, no, it was
They were not in it.
amazing. Like in execution, I was watching. I was like, I don't get this at all, but this is so good. And like
Yeah.
I felt the same thing when I watched Ayala that one year with the chairs, where I was like, I know that there's a message here, and I don't really get it because I'm too dumb right now, I guess.
But to
the execution was so
Well,
good.
To Mark's point, though,
Yeah.
if the Colts, came out and did
That's-
that at the same level of quality, what would happen? Would they get credit for it?
I think that
Or
is
would
a
it be just
prevalent
weird?
thing.
Oh man, that was weird.
I think it's a prevalent thing, but I think there have been a couple drum corps in the past couple years that have kind of changed that notion. Like, I mean, I guess if you consider Mike Jackson one of the big people, I guess he is, right? He's writing for Blue Knights or whatever, because they do things unconventionally and they do get rewarded for it. Like they moved up like 7 places in drums in the past couple years. Like they've always been unconventional while the guy was there. I think he left this year or pre-COVID, but they get away with stuff. I'm thinking I watched Colt. I think you mentioned Colts. Yeah, I was watching Colts with Joey at finals in 2019, and he was like, "Man, they're so much better than even when I marched here last year." And like they were moving. Their percussion section made finals, but the drum corps didn't, and they were like 4 places up. So I think they were writing a lot like the Blue Coats, like all these other groups. So I think it's there, just not nearly
Yeah,
as
but it's
like.
they're following the leader. They're not allowed to be the leader.
Well, I mean, I get that, but I just think like no, like at this point in the activity, I feel like no writing is original. Like everything has to come from somewhere. All these people did march at some point in these organizations, and they learned what they did through those same people that are now teaching the same organization still, like
Yeah.
Scott. So it's like, how much can we really deviate from how we play, what notes are played on a snare drum? And obviously, there's still way more things we can do. But like I sometimes it's like, or even like you could take fashion as an example, like. My mom used to make fun of me because like when jean jackets came back and stuff, she's like, I thought this stuff was whack and like it wasn't cool. Like I was wearing this when I was super young and like it went out of style, and
Goes
it's
around,
like
yeah.
it's cyclical, and it's like I there's only so much you can do with clothes, and I guess like kind of the same thing where it's like there's only so much you can do with writing, I guess. But I think just personally, I only say that because I don't think I'm creative enough to put something out that would shake the tree where people would be like, this is very interesting. Because the only thing I can think of is like stuff that like even BD somehow always outdoes itself with the way they write stuff. Like every year I'm just like, wow, this is ridiculous. I wonder, like, they can't get more ridiculous than this, and they'll write more ridiculous stuff. So I don't know if like that's something that other groups can really do. Like what they played the last year they were out was absolutely insane.
Where do you cross the threshold though between ridiculous and nonsensical?
Well, that's what I'm
Like,
saying is like
wow.
it's all in the eye of the
happened?
beholder, right? It's all perception. It's like if you are on the level that those guys drum and you see that and you understand it, even if it is, I guess, nonsensical, it's still ridiculous. Like even if like I don't know, you're gritting book reports at 200 beats per minute, it's like, yeah, that's nonsensical and like doesn't make sense. But that takes a level of achievement that I don't understand. Like, and I literally cannot
yeah,
grasp.
sure, reward the achievement, but I'm not sure you should be rewarding the effect.
You're talking not the comp either, right? You're talking the effect of like what that makes people feel.
Yeah, cause like back to that experience at Allentown, I don't remember who went on before them, but whoever it was, the crowd went up big for. And I get there's different types of emotional reactions to shows. You could do a sad show, heartstring show. You could do a hype show, tear their face off. Different ways you can affect people, and you can measure those things. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like the crowd was into a performance, and BD's performance they were not into. They weren't having a sad reaction to or a different reaction to. They were getting up and leaving.
Yeah.
Like, so, and they're winning effect with that. And that the problem I have is like, that sets the rules for everybody else. Why does BD do that? Is it because they're the only ones that can, or is it because they're the only ones that are allowed to?
So if they did that and didn't win effect, I mean, BD has lost a couple drum titles in the past couple years, and they continue to do the same thing. So I don't know if it's really them. Like, I think they would be weird and abstract anyway. Like I think that's still more
Maybe.
the judges. Like maybe they shouldn't win effect, but that like it's one of those things where it's like in the eye of the beholder. Like if I have experience and like years of teaching and drumming and I see the achievement,
How many of you are there?
I'm
not
not
many of you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like we were also talking about it, like when we were talking about the activity dying, where it's like, who are the people that are hyping these people up? The people in the activity that understand it, and you're not bringing more people in, and it ties into the effect thing.
New people in.
And it's like, I agree with that, but when I got really inspired to do this whole activity, this whole show, I was talking about it actually in the master class, where it was like I watched Cadets in 2007. We were talking about it. I didn't understand anything that those snare drummers were playing. I was playing timpani in my high school band. I could barely play eighth notes in time. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I want to play like these guys.
Videos of this, photos?
Of me playing timpani?
Yeah.
I have like one. It's really terrible. My hair is like, it's like all over my face. But I remember watching. It's like, I didn't understand anything that was going on. I just like knew that my high school tech was marching there and he was really good. And I saw him laying down beats with other people that were really good. And I was like, this is amazing. So I don't know if the effect, I mean, because you were talking about it, you think that show's terrible. And for a newcomer, for me, that show was amazing. Like I watched and I was
What show?
This I Believe, 2007.
Oh, I don't.
But I'm saying that brought me in. Like even though I didn't understand anything that they were playing or doing, like the energy, the all of that is what really.
Also, let me qualify that a little bit. Like I don't hate the show per se. I loved watching them rehearse.
Yeah.
Because like I liked the notes they played. I liked the drill they did. I liked the music they played.
Yeah.
I think the narration part of that show took so much away from it.
Well, yeah, see, but that's because you're in it. For me, that's what hooked me onto it. I was like, this is so
But you know
not
what?
normal.
It was
All
also
right, fair point.
I would say that's not.
But I was also a child, so.
Well, I would also say that was certainly not a nonsensical show. Like from a design standpoint, I understood every moment of that show. Whether you liked it or not is a different thing.
Exactly. I was able to follow it.
Effectually,
Yeah.
I'm like, I get what's happening. And
Literally the opposite of abstract.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it was just,
These are bass drums.
I believe.
Now the trumpets will play.
I think she even like followed them around and like cued them in.
Like, look over here.
Yeah.
Which I mean, in that way, I kind of respect that.
Yeah.
That challenges some parameters and things like that. Like, cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like they got rewarded for that, and BD still did their thing where they're being abstract. So I don't know. I think it's. I mean, I think it's more what you're saying, but I also think like there are groups that are willing to go out.
But
and
I think
do
you're
these
talking
things.
about cadets.
I'm
And
also talking
cadets
about
are in-
BD.
Cadets are in the club.
Yeah.
Like that. It's not just BD. Like it's there's 6 of them.
Well, I think it
that are
also comes
allowed
with the hill of adversity where like if you are gonna do something like that, you would have to do it better than the Blue Devils. Like for it to kind of be like, oh, like they're trying something new. It would have to be something so good because you're already counted out from like your initial doubt. What is it? The benefit of the doubt. Like people are like, oh, this is a 15th place group. They're doing something weird. Like it's probably gonna be bad. So you already have to overcome that, and you have to. The design has to be probably better than that of the club and all these things. Like
I actually think that our mentality around that benefit of the doubt thing in the marching arts should be the opposite of what it is. If somebody won last year, it should be, if anything, if not a completely equal playing field, it should be harder to win because we shouldn't want the same groups to win every year. Like that's not good for anything. It's not good for the activity. It's not good for fans. It's not good for anything. So like that, I'm not saying like it shouldn't just be an equal playing field, but everybody says benefit of the doubt. Like that's just a thing. You just have to accept it. Like I always thought that was ridiculous because it's a whole mentality that just encourages a lack of parity and competition. Like
well, that's why I was talking to like the Raiders guys at finals. We were watching lots and stuff, and I was like, yo, I really think BD should win. Like, and we were just like, oh well, you know, Vanguard's won the past 3, and it was like instant benefit of the doubt. Like they're gonna win because they've won the past 3 and this and this, and it's like you're not even looking at these other groups, like these other groups, and like that's the thing where it's like if I feel like if BD wanted to, they could just play the game. I mean, maybe not. We talked about the front ensemble being different. I don't know anything about that, but like they could with the battery play the same game that Vanguard does, where they don't like move and they kind of just stand still and play things that are very Renicky, and like, you know, they could play the game the way Vanguard does and probably beat them at their own game. Like who knows? But like they refuse to go that direction every year. They play their own weird wonky rhythms all the time and do their own thing.
I also think that you're talking about some branding that's going on there and some personal, like I think that Vanguard Percussion is going in it to win percussion, and I think BD is going in to win a championship. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes winning percussion and winning a championship
are different,
have conflicting. You're choosing for overall effect instead of winning technical paradiddle skills or whatever.
Really, I think we sometimes don't factor in is the bully pulpit factor too. Whereas, the Rennicks go in and they make statements to critique, right, to the judges meeting. They go in and they make statements. Whereas the Colts go in and ask questions. Like,
Yeah.
do you see the difference? You know what I mean?
Well,
So
it's
that's-
and, man, I don't know if I want to say this because
You're gonna say it. Just say it.
Okay, here we
You
go.
always start something you're not gonna say with that, and you say.
I don't know what goes on in those rooms, but I
Sure.
do know what goes on in DCA critiques.
Yeah, let's
And,
tell us a story, Mark.
I mean, there's some ridiculous things that go on. I'm gonna try to do this without throwing anybody under the bus, but there was a show a couple years ago where I was teaching, and a group that we were competing with, he was the director of the group. The week before, with the same judge, pretty much the same lineup in the shows, almost the same show 2 weeks in a row. You know what I mean? And we won drums at that show, or I don't know if we won overall, but we beat this group in question. And we had an okay show at that one. The next week we threw down, like had an awesome show, best show of the year, and we're down. Now maybe that happened. Maybe they had a even better show. They improved even more than we did. Fine, like I could buy that. But here's what I can't buy. The week before, what I watched was when we won. Not even the percussion captain, the director of the group went into the drum judge and yelled at him for 5 minutes, berated him. And then we went in after them and had a nice conversation. The next week, they're up over us, despite us having a better show. And I went in, and I actually got ejected for 2 weeks from being on the team. And I went in, and I sat down, and I said, hey, I'm confused by this because we did better in all the areas that we talked about last week with you, and you were the same judge, and you had this reaction, and this week you had a different reaction. And it's like, and I can't speak for everything that happened on the field, but here's what I do know. I know that last week this happened. So what I learned for me to advocate for my team is I need to sit here and yell at you for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll start getting rewarded next time we see you.
Well, the thing that
And just for calling that out, they're dragging me out.
yeah.
They're throwing me out.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing that drives me crazy is like people will be the first to defend like the integrity of the activity, right? It'd be like, oh, that doesn't happen. Like we play fair.
Oh, it
It's like,
absolutely
it happens in literally everything else. Like anything else where like I don't know, so a cheer mom comes into rehearsal and starts yelling at the coach, and next thing you know, she's the lead role in whatever it is that they're doing, or I mean, a theater or whatever. That's the example I wanted to come up with, or anything else where like a parent comes in and freaks out. Like these things happen all the time in all facets of like our reality. Like even at work, like
let's say hypothetically, you have a competitive circuit where it's like a minor league, but everybody wants to be an umpire in the major league, right? So they're all trying to get that, and they're all trying to build their resumes and build their experience or whatever. And one of the groups competing in said league, one of the coaches runs the major leagues. Do they have an advantage?
well, I'm gonna say yes, obviously, but no, right? That's the answer. Is no, they don't.
I mean,
No, they don't. Things never happen when you know people or push people.
Right.
Or
Would you say the same about the Olympics, though? I mean, I'm just trying to think. Again, I'm trying to think of some kind of analogy that the rest of the world experiences.
there's probably a
Would you
ton in
say, like-
sports. There's
would you
probably a
say-
ton of them.
Yeah, like let's say I'll just use figure skating again, or gymnastics or whatever. Do we really think that China, U.S., Russia, Sweden, I don't know, that they're at the top of their game and everyone else sort of falls by the wayside every 4 years? Or do you think it's actually more even than we think? They're just given the benefit of the doubt because...
Well, it's like the whole conversation we were just having before this. It's the same idea.
I think it's a little bit harder to do that, though, in those things because they're more concrete and measurable.
yeah, that's
We-
the other
that
thing.
is
Like
one-
this person measurably jumped farther.
That is one of the arguments that we were making a couple weeks ago, right? Is people don't know the rules of drum corps. Like part of the evaluation of process of drum and bugle corps or the marching activity is you accumulate points by some kind of abstract or non-defined criteria. Some of which is just, do I like it better or not? Except we can't take part in that. There's only a few people that have access to that part of the score, and then there's obviously the execution part, which you want people who are trained in that to do that. Which that part is identically analogous to figure skating because that's all figure skating is, right? I think as a figure skater, here's a list of 10 things I have to do.
Yeah.
Figure skating really isn't very artful. It's music that and they do their 10 things and then they stop.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sort of like gymnastics dance
Yeah.
routines. I think they have like a little bit of say over. Well, they do. But the incentive, the way I understand it, I'm not a figure skating expert, but the way
you're not?
actually, you guys don't know what I do on the weekends now. But I think the way it is like they're supposed to max out the demand of their production to what they're capable of doing at a high level.
And there's a list of things that they're required to do, though, right?
I don't
Do
think
you
it's a
have-
requirement. I think it's a list that you have to pick from, and each one is weighted more on that
Gotcha.
list. So, like, if you can pull off a triple axle, you should do it because you get this much
You'll get
credit
more-
for it. If it's like that's where it's always like the top of the top of the competitive aspect is always exciting because they're trying to do things that they don't always pull off. Sometimes they fall, but every once in a while they nail it and then they win.
Do you happen to know? Is there a judge that I don't know if you know this or not? Is there a judge that looks at it and says, "Man, that was fun to watch," or is that
I don't
not
think-
factored
I
at
think
all?
I don't know, but I think
Are we
it's,
talking about drum corps again?
They, well,
We're
I
talking about the
think-
Olympics.
I think
Oh,
they
okay.
do. I think they do measure the programming a little bit. I don't really understand how that works, but I know there's a lot. Wasn't there like a huge controversy a couple years ago with like a Russian judge or something, or somebody like very obviously won but didn't win because of one judge? I
I know plenty of drum corps situations where that's happened. We're trying to find some kind of analogy. To the rest of the world
2014
experiences.
There it is. There it
Yeah,
is. I told you. I remember
Someday we'll come to that.
I
I don't even want to.
yeah.
Don't even want to go. I just joking.
I don't know what an analogy the rest of the world would understand
with
with how crediting drum corps, or I keep saying drum corps, how crediting the marching activity works. Because it's actually.
Well, I think it's just like any art, right? It's just like it's up to the person judging it. Like it's whatever they think is. Because I mean, what you said, the triple axle thing, like BD's playing 5 lits on each hand at 200 into 11 lits into paradiddle, like.
But if that's what you're
Dutta
judging on
or whatever.
completely, it's no longer art. I would not consider this art at all.
What would it be then?
Figure skating. I don't know.
It's a sport.
It's a sport.
It's because now you're not incentivized to create art. And actually, this is I got a funny thing to talk about with this. You're not incentivized to create an art form. You're incentivized to create the hardest thing possible that you can achieve, so you can get the most points.
That's a sport, I think. Nothing wrong with it. It's
Well,
just,
that's what I'm saying. That's.
I think.
Although I fundamentally disagree, that could be art to like art is subjective. So that could be art to like somebody who is extremely talented could see. I don't know. I'm talking like probably like a prodigy watches Vanguard play and be like, "This is so easy. Why would I ever do this?"
that's a free throw contest.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, but to them, like they're still musicians, they're still artists, and they can still have an opinion as an artist, especially if they're as good at what they do as they are. Like you can't tell that person that's not art if like they are arguably right a better artist than you. If they can outplay you, they can do all these things better than you. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you don't know what art is, dude, just because you could play the hardest thing. It's like I literally can't even function at your level.
No, but I don't disagree. I think what we have in this activity is a awkward marriage of the two.
Yes.
Like because it is.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the schools of thoughts are so weird. Like I feel like if BD were to cave, they would have changed their approach a long time ago. Because people
and
make fun of them all the time because
I also
of what
don't
they play.
think anybody wants a system where everybody plays the same thing.
Yeah.
And just comes out and gets
That is
measured on
figure
how
skating.
well.
That's why I don't enjoy
Yeah.
figure skating.
Yeah,
I didn't
'cause
even know that's how figure skating was.
Yeah, yeah.
It does all as an art.
Well,
sorry.
that's why I
Sorry,
don't
figure
enjoy
skaters,
sports.
But it's boring because they all seem the same.
Which makes it more of a sport.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I think
Yeah.
even they would agree it's considered a sport.
Yeah.
We're kind of in this weird middle ground. Like, and I do think like as far as judging goes, we should be separating those two things. I think that if you want real art, we talked about this before. I think if you want real art, then people should be deciding and not experts. I think experts should be deciding who should win drums, who should win best brass, who should win best color guard, who should win best execution of marching.
But then who's gonna gatekeep the elite at the top?
What do you mean? People will.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like nobody will be able to gatekeep and it will be up to the people.
Oh, it'd be
Yeah.
a little sarcasm.
It
over
was
there.
sarcasm in there.
I'm not picking up what you're putting
Well,
down.
also like I'm sure it has to do something somebody losing their job and like all these other things where it's like, oh, like
There's a lot of
we
factors.
won't be able to control this part of the activity. Oh no, like people will have to decide.
How much fun would that be, though?
I would love it, but people don't like chaos. People like control, and I've learned to accept that. Like whenever, I mean, a lot of my like friends sometimes like make fun of me for moving out to Williamsport to like teach full time, and they're like,
Why
oh, that's
would-
crazy. That's like
why?
that's
Why?
because
where
it's,
else would you want to live?
because it's like instability. They just can't fathom the idea of any kind of chaos in their life. Doing anything but working their 9 to 5, paying their bills, and doing the same things they do every week. And it's like people take comfort in the absolute control of things, which I to a point, like I just fundamentally disagreed with it. I think because I thrive in chaos, but like I now sympathize with it, where it's like, yeah, I can see why you would want stability in your life. That makes perfect sense. Like I can see why you would want a steady stream of income with no thoughts of instability and no chance of something you're investing your time into not working out. I completely understand it.